welcome to Pop-O-Holics, the show about hot takes hotter than hot, tasty pancakes. You've landed on a weekly upload for May 31st, 2021. We're almost out of May, and it's looking pretty great.
Getting close.
This is Shut Up,
It's
Brian.
not gonna be
Shut
May.
up, Chris. This is my show until I introduce you.
Thank you for that.
This is a weekly upload. Hello, YouTube watchers and podcast listeners. Yes, we're now on YouTube. This is the Pop-O-Holics weekly upload, where we give you the latest and greatest in pop culture. We talk news, what we've been consuming, and have some community feedback. I'm your host, Christian Cady, and I'm joined by my two favorite best friends. The first one goes first.
Chris Conkling.
And Brian Dupree.
And here we are. Again, the gang is back together. We got a lot to talk about. We've got more casting for Sandman. There's the new Pokemon. Some stuff that should concern antitrust regulators. Some more
With any
casting
hope.
for Marvel stuff. And the new Eternals trailer just dropped, so we'll be talking about that. Got some a list of great stuff coming out to theaters and streaming. And we're going to keep talking about Mass Effect. We had a big, long discussion me and Chris did about Mass Effect last week. And you also saw MODOK, so I'm interested to hear about that. And Brian, you saw that new Spiral movie. So all should be very interesting coming up. And for the YouTube watchers, you're going to be getting the news section. And if you want to listen to the rest, well, that's going to be over on the podcast feed. You can find that link down below to all of our social media.
Hit up the old podcast feed.
Hit up the old podcast feed. But let's delay no further. Let's jump right in to Brian's Wacky News Corner.
There. Welcome back, everyone. The wackiest of news corners. I'm making Chris's job easy here, hopefully. As Christian mentioned,
Thanks.
we've got some... I'm doing my best. A little behind the pod there. We've got some new Sandman casting news. So this is something that is relatively deep into production at that point, but we haven't gotten very many pieces of news about it. We haven't gotten any shots from the set or anything like that. So it was recently announced that Tom Sturridge would play Morpheus, and just in the last couple of days, they dropped 12 new actors playing a whole variety of characters for the new Netflix show, The Sandman. So I'm going to run through these real quick. So we have Kirby Howell-Baptiste playing Death. We have Mason Alexander Park playing Desire. Donna Preston playing Despair. Razane Jamal playing Lita Hall, Joely Richardson as Ethel Cripps, Niam Walsh as young Ethel Cripps, David Thewlis as John Dee, which I am ridiculously excited for, Kaio Ra as Rose Walker, Patton Oswalt as Matthew the Raven, another really great casting choice, I think, Stephen Fry as Gilbert, Jenna Coleman as Joanna Constantine, and Sandra James Young as Unity Kincaid. So
Hold on, can we
this
just
is a whole bunch
Brian,
of casting.
that was a lot of names.
You did a great job, Brian.
You know, I
Like,
can
I,
never...
perfect-
I was a little nervous
I-
about reading all of these names. I
Excellent
apologize for
pronunciation.
mispronunciations.
Listeners of the pod may know that Christian, on our main topic episodes where we like dive deep into one, movie or TV show or video game or something, I list off all the actors that were involved with something, and never successfully. It's never a successful read. I will mess. If everybody's name is John Doe, I'll be like, John Doe, it's John Doe. Jane Doe, it's Jane Doe. John Doe,
John Doe.
and then I'll get the hot sweat. So,
Jane
Brian,
Doe.
great stuff.
No, I appreciate it.
You did a
I
great
was a bit nervous about it. And I apologize if I did mess up any of those names. But The Sandman, we've talked about it a good deal on this podcast before. We covered Sandman Overture, the prequel to the Sandman series. This series follows, among many others, Dream of the Endless, who is one of a family of 7 that are kind of archetypal entities that exist on timescales far beyond humans, even far beyond many gods. It's a very huge, fantastic tale that I would highly recommend for anyone, even if you're not a fan of comics. It's now being adapted in, there's an Audible audiobook that's currently ongoing, as well as this Netflix series that has kind of been in the works in different forms for a really long time. And I'm happy to see that it's actually coming together and clearly materializing with all of the recent casting announcements. Are you guys planning on watching this? I know you haven't read as much Sandman as I have.
I'm definitely going to check the show out. I'm super excited to see this comic adapted just because of how beautiful the visuals are for the original book. I
Oh
think
yeah.
if they're able to translate that, this could potentially be a hit show. I'm not familiar with a lot of these actors that we just read off, but I mean, I am familiar with David Thewlis, Patton Oswalt, Stephen Fry, Jenna Coleman, mostly from like, you know, as I've said before on the podcast, Patton Oswalt's one of my favorite comedians. I'll be talking about MODOK later. But I mean, David Thewlis from Harry Potter, among other things, you know, Jenna Coleman from Doctor Who, Stephen Fry from a shit ton.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'm really
Shit ton.
excited
I haven't
to
seen
see
that one yet, Chris.
a shit ton. Yeah, he's been in a ton.
Is
I'm really
that the
excited to
prequel?
see what.
Is that the prequel to a shit ton?
Yes, it's yeah. I don't know where we're going with this
You
joke.
just
I'm
you
not
just
gonna
yes
sorry.
ellipse that run. Anyway, Chris,
Sorry,
continue.
you
Yep.
interrupted, Christian. You interrupted my thought process, and I couldn't pick up.
What was the previous
Couldn't
actor?
pick up what you're putting down.
The actor you mentioned?
Stephen
David
Fry,
Thewlis.
Stephen Fry, star of
Oh.
A Ton and the sequel A Shit Ton. Chris,
a shit ton. There you go. Perfect.
I
See,
see.
you
Okay,
don't need
there's
me.
the joke.
You can do your own thing. Anyway, viewers, I'm excited to see the show visualized. Bottom line, Christian, are you excited for the show?
they're making a shit ton TV show.
They are, yeah,
That's
adapting
incredible. Looking
the
forward
beloved
to it.
comic book.
Has a shit ton of actors. No, you know, I bought that Sandman. They released the Sandman on on Audible, right? They have this huge, great production with all these great voice actors. I've listened to like 5 minutes of it, maybe. I'm hoping that I really enjoyed. We covered Sandman Overture, which is one of like the sequel graphic novels. It's a prequel, right? Actually, Overture.
It is a prequel.
Yeah, and
And you can listen to that episode over on our YouTube channel.
that you can. I really enjoyed that. So I'm hoping there's something else that can get me back in this universe because it's really cool. Like Brian was explaining. I don't dislike it. I definitely have my own personal issues with fiction audio content. That's very hard for me to get into. It has been done before, but maybe I'll try to revisit that. But this cast is really exciting. I think what's even more exciting is the actors that I don't know, Chris, just like you. I personally haven't seen a shit or a shit ton, so I haven't seen these actors in very much. So this will be a great chance to expose us all to some new talent.
Yeah, and something that's going to be really interesting to see, even though obviously you have actors playing a certain character, a lot of these characters, especially the Endless, don't always look the same scene to scene. So it's going to be cool how all of this stuff is interpreted, and I'm sure some of us will definitely be talking about that once Sandman comes out on Netflix. So the next piece of news, some Pokemon news just dropped in the last couple of days. There are a couple of games coming out. We've got Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Pokemon Shining Pearl coming out on November 19th. So those are remakes of two games that came out for the Nintendo DS in 2006, Pokemon Diamond and Pokemon Pearl. We've also got an all new game called Pokemon Legends Arceus. Debated pronunciation there, apparently, over at the Pokemon Company. But this one is kind of different. It's apparently mixing some historical Pokemon style games with more of a role-playing game. So I'm not sure how this is going to look in practice, but it's something that's conceptually kind of interesting to me. Having grown up playing Pokemon, recently really enjoyed playing the new Pokemon Snap. Christian, I know this is probably very far from up your alley.
No, I'll
but,
take over from
Chris,
here, Brian.
Are you looking forward?
Pokemon
All right, yeah.
Arceus is gonna blow people's minds. Now, Arceus is the god, as everybody knows, the god of all Pokemon.
He shows up at the end of Raiders. It's wild.
Yeah, he's in one of those little boxes, and then he comes out, and he's Arceus, and he Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but he is the god of all Pokemon, right? And he's broken up into three distinct parts: the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And Arceus' father sends his son, Arceus Jr., to the Earth to die for all the Pokemon's sins. And so it's going to be a really, really long story. I think there's 66 chapters. It's kind of a choose-your-own adventure.
Game Freak is going way more mature than they've ever gone before.
They're Game freaking it up.
Wholly original content. It's incredible.
Very exciting.
Chris,
Brian,
how are you
what other
actually feeling
news?
about this game?
1% of what Christian said was right. Arceus, whatever, is the god of Pokemon. But out of the three games that you just listed, Brian, I think the most exciting one is Pokemon Legends, because I mean, I was half joking, but the Game Freak really is kind of going outside of their comfort zone in developing this game based on what we've seen so far. And it's very early concept and early gameplay, but it has a very Breath of the Wild vibe. It's not going to be your typical Pokemon game where you go around and collect badges and stuff. From what we know, the story takes place, I think, 1,000 years before most of the Pokemon games take place themselves. So you're talking about, traveling around a region where a Pokedex has not been crafted yet. I don't know how many trainers actually like capture Pokemon and battle them and stuff like that. So mechanically, I think the game is going to function very different from what we've seen in the past. And that's really interesting. Game Freak has kind of been known to kind of play it safe in the past. And I think this is them saying, we're going to try something new.
They're going to play
Especially
dangerous
considering
in the past.
They're playing, they're playing dangerous
In the past.
Especially considering that they've handed off, what is it? Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Those are the titles of the Diamond and Pearl remakes. They've handed those two games off to another developer, which they've never done with any of their games before, any of their remakes. So you can tell that the love is there for Pokemon Legends. They definitely want that to be their primary focus. Shining Pearl and Brilliant Diamond is, unlike the other remakes where they've added new things into them, tried to enhance the mechanics, make it a new experience even though you're playing through a similar game. They've said that this one is kind of going to be like a straightforward remake. Like, they're not really adding anything new. If you played the original ones, you kind of know what you're getting into here, which is a little disappointing if I'm being perfectly honest. But like I said, you can tell where their hearts lie and what they really want to put their attention on, which is Pokemon Legends. So come January 28th, I'm really excited to see what they've come up with, and what type of changes they've made to the franchise. It'll be cool.
In all seriousness, I know there's a lot to get into there, and sometimes I ask myself, why don't we ever hit our 20-minute marker for these segments? And then I remember I'm a jackass. And I do have a question. So this is cool potential. Arsehole, the god of the Pokemon.
Yes.
Now, do the Pokemon worship him, or is he like the original creator of Pokemon?
The creator.
Okay, so he is he created Pokemon. That's
Correct.
potentially cool. Is there a lot of story already on him in the
There is.
cartoons?
Yeah, he was introduced during Pokemon Diamond and Pokemon Pearl. So he's not a new concept. He's been around in the Pokemon franchise for about a decade. They're just focusing on him because the region that Pokemon Legends is going to take place in is the same region that Diamond and Pearl take place in. So there's kind of this like celebratory thing taking place right now in the Pokemon community and franchise for the Sinnoh region, which is that Diamond and Pearl world, basically.
Very cool.
Yeah, so that's Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Pokemon Shining Pearl. That'll be out November 19th. And Pokemon Legends Arceus. That'll be out January 28th, 2022. All right, moving on to some relatively big news for the end of physical media. And
Brian
just
seems so
movies as
upset
we
about
know it,
this.
potentially. No, it's just a sign of things to come, and the inevitably changing tides, maybe. But Amazon, just like everything else, they are planning to buy MGM for $8.45 billion that they've just got laying around in the Cayman Islands, from what I understand, allegedly.
Allegedly.
And yeah, so this is a ridiculously big move. A couple of caveats here. Most of their pre-1986 catalog had already been sold at some other point. So there are some select titles that will be available from back then. Most of this is post-1986. One of the biggest titles bought here is James Bond, and a lot of people are wondering how this is going to affect that franchise. This deal may not even go through by the time No Time to Die is coming out, and may not go through at all depending on antitrust legislation. Although
seems like it might be No Time to Buy.
I don't know. I think if Disney can acquire Fox, I don't see any reason why this deal is not going to go through.
Right. His history would show us this is probably going to be allowed to happen. So, but 50% of James Bond is still owned by the Broccoli Company. So they will still have
Wait, big
a
broccoli's
stake
in on
how
this?
these movies come out.
They actually have huge control over what happens in the James Bond franchise. They get final say in who plays James Bond. Like, they have more creative control than I think a lot of people have when it comes to owning these franchises. So
when the next James Bond is Jeff Bezos, we might have to talk.
Money talks, Christian.
Big broccolis, see how much control they can wrangle from the Bays, man.
Maybe that's why he's stepping down as CEO. He's got to make time for
stepping up
for
as
his
James
Bond
Bond.
appearance.
Barbara Broccoli's taking over Amazon. That's what's gonna happen.
Oh, it's a sleeper agent. It's a 007 move. I like where your head's at.
So, a couple of the other big titles that or franchises that are part of this are Rocky, RoboCop that we covered recently, The Pink Panther, which we've covered, Silence of the Lambs, which we've also covered, and a bunch more. And you got to imagine that this is going to lead to a bunch of things being revamped and remade. So I can be hopeful about this in some regard. Hopefully it does regenerate some of this content, maybe make it more widely available on Prime Video and things like this. I think it's probably a negative for physical content generally. I'm not sure how much MGM was doing that these days anyway. But yeah, $8.5 billion for MGM to Amazon.
Brian, one thing that might ease your mind about this deal is Amazon has traditionally in the past been a huge proponent for the cinema going experience. Like, they are all for releasing their films in theaters prior to them coming to the streaming service, unlike Netflix, which is like,
as far as
for
streaming
the most
services
part,
go, yeah, you're right.
Straight to streaming. So
well,
I mean,
Netflix,
that's
for
one
the record,
upside.
Netflix
to this
releases
taking
them in
place.
theaters. They just don't have a deal with. They haven't cut any kind of deal with the big Regal and AMC's of the world.
Right. They do release some movies in theaters, but Amazon for the most part is for that. So that's good for the theater industry, especially after the year that they just had. I'm excited about this. Like you said, Brian, I don't think this is going to impact No Time to Die in any way, shape, or form. This deal is going to take a year or so to go through. But I am interested to see what the Broccolis allow for the future of the Bond franchise. Like, and how much say Amazon's actually going to have when it comes to, the direction that this franchise goes in. We know that, No Time to Die is Daniel Craig's last Bond movie. We've yet to hear who the next Bond's going to be. So I'm wondering if that's going to be put on hold.
I think we made that clear a couple minutes ago.
It's going to be Jeff Bezos, and in his Bond mansion, he's
True.
going to have
True.
Leo the
Sorry.
lion strewn about.
I'll be done
his
with the Bond
corpse.
franchise if that's the case. But oh God, I can't believe I'm going to say this recorded. Jeff Bezos would make a great Bond villain. But
Yikes.
maybe not necessarily James Bond himself. I'm sorry, don't cancel us. Amazon.
I
But yeah,
control
I'm
all
interested to see
the
where this goes.
packages.
Christian, how do you feel about this?
No, I think I've said my piece.
Okay.
For this is the problem with like current antitrust stuff, and it's a lot of things that we don't talk about on the show or get into. But the direct thing is like, oh, there's going to be more content on my Amazon Prime, which is already like a great deal. It's like a okay streaming service that
Right.
you get on top of your free yearly shipping discounts or whatever.
Right, the free yearly shipping that you pay $119 for annually.
And now it's gonna come with a Bond. Yeah, but it comes with everything. They won't stop emailing me about like, you have 6 terabytes of photo storage. You want to upload a picture of you and your grandma anytime soon?
Have you even tried listening to Amazon Music? We've seen that you haven't touched it at all. It's part of the package that you're paying for.
Yeah, I mean, it's already such a massive content library. Now they're going to have a lot of MGM stuff. I mean, that's the direct benefit to consumers, and right? So it's going to benefit people that already spend the money on this one company, and it's just consolidate. And I'm not, there's a lot of different ways you can feel about it. But
Christian, 3 things that they won't have: The Wizard of Oz, Gone with the Wind, and Casablanca. Those were already sold to Warner Brothers years ago.
Oh, the other third company that owns everything.
Right.
Perfect. Yeah, good. That's great.
Competition, baby. So, yeah, that's the giant merger that's happening between Amazon and MGM potentially. The next piece of news, we've got Aaron Taylor Johnson has been announced as playing Kraven the Hunter for Sony Pictures. So this is a Marvel character. Aaron Taylor Johnson, probably best known for starring in Kick-Ass. He was also recently in Tenet in a relatively small role last year. Um, I know very little about this character. I'm going to read some basic facts here. He was introduced as a Spider-Man villain in 1964. His name is Sergei Kravinoff. Considers himself to be the world's greatest hunter, and he earns this moniker through his prowess at tracking and killing big game, often with his bare hands. So, sounds relatively basic. He hunts things. I haven't seen Aaron Taylor Johnson in all that much, but I've enjoyed him in everything I've seen, really. So I feel like this is solid casting. Chris, are you more familiar with this character? Do you think he kind of fits the role?
So, I'm of two minds of this news. In terms of Aaron Taylor Johnson playing Kraven, I think he's actually perfect casting. He has the build, he has the look. We're gonna get a chance to hear him do another shitty Russian accent, just like in Age of Ultron. But yeah, if you look at the picture of Aaron Taylor Johnson in the article that we posted, you can see that he has the physique to be Kraven, right? And Sony's been doing this thing where they are taking the Spider-Man Rogues Gallery and they are making individual movies for each of them. You know, we're about to see a second Venom. Morbius is on the horizon. We know about Kraven now. But my thing, especially with Kraven is at his best. You know, he's like Brian said, he's himself an apex predator when it comes to hunting. Like, there's no prey that he cannot catch, right, and kill, except Spider-Man. So I'm not really interested at all in seeing a Kraven movie that doesn't have Spider-Man in it, to be perfectly honest. Like, Kraven's Last Hunt is a really great comic book run. I recommend you go out and read it. But I have zero interest in seeing like a Kraven film like they did with Joker. Venom, you can kind of get away with it because in the comics he has become recently in the last decade come more of an anti-hero. So he kind of rides that line. He can be his own lead in a film, but I just don't see it working out for Kraven. So my hope is that by the time Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness has rolled around, or even Spider-Man No Way Home, we get some type of multiverse reason for there to be either someone else playing Spider-Man in these Sony films, or Tom Holland has crossover for some reason. You know, it is strange that we're getting the same actor who has played Quicksilver in the MCU now playing a Spider-Man villain in the Sonyverse, but we know that those two film universes are detached, but like as soon as Doctor Strange rolls around, potentially not detached, you know? So we'll see. These are very early stages for this film, but to be perfectly honest, I have no desire to see a standalone Kraven movie, nor do I think a standalone Kraven movie would work. It requires Spider-Man. And I know we said that about the Venom film, and a ton of people like that, but again, Venom could be his own hero. I don't think Kraven can be. Loyal listeners, if you think I'm wrong, please email us at Pop-O-Holics@gmail.com. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents about this news. Christian, do you have any thoughts on the casting here?
Sounds like you're not craving this picture there, Chris.
I'm not Kraven and Aaron Taylor Johnson Kraven.
I did, yeah.
I hope you're wrong, because I hope that someone like Kraven the Hunter, who's I don't know much about. I know just what I've seen in the Spider-Man cartoon, and he does make an appearance.
Christian, let me tell you this: he's known for wearing a jacket seemingly made from a lion's head and mane, and nothing much underneath.
That's what he's known for.
Scantily clad for his lion's head and mane, and
he's known for his
visibility
costume, Brian.
Of apparently, according to Variety.
And you made the statement that he has, and I'm just double checking, he has bare hands.
Yeah, his hands are bare. Yes.
Interesting. Yeah, I hope that it's like a good. I mean, this is a lot of hope, but I'm hoping Sony and even Marvel can realize that this is a good platform to tell like unique stories using like famous IP, but maybe we get something wholly different. And I think there's a cool story here that doesn't involve Spider-Man, that involves a man similar to Kraven the Hunter as we know him in the comic books, and hopefully they give someone the license to make that interesting. So I'm not, Venom was okay. How bad could it be? But Sony has done us dirty before, so I won't put too much stake in it. But my hope is that it's something that is doesn't need to be reliant on source material. But that's always kind of my position.
I hope it's good too. My thing is, like, we know that Sony's been trying to put together a Sinister Six movie for a long time, and Kraven has been a member of the Sinister Six in the past. I don't need a standalone movie for each of those Sinister Six members before we get a Sinister Six movie. Like, just figure out a way to make a decent Sinister Six heist movie. Introduce the characters better than Suicide Squad was able to do it. And let's just go from there, Sony. Like, don't make me sit through six movies of these individual characters just to get to the thing that you've been wanting to make since 2011, 2012. Like, put us out of our misery. Just make the movie already so we can see it and be done with it. But yeah, sorry if I sound so cynical about this whole thing, but I'm excited about Aaron Taylor Johnson being Kraven. I just want the Kraven movie to be good. So here's to hoping.
You have reason to treat this with paws. Big furry bear paws.
Sure.
Kraven Hunter.
Kraven bear hands.
So that's Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Who doesn't crave some bear hands on their body from time to time? Brian.
No king shaming here. Let's say that. Last piece of news proper this week. We have gotten the long-awaited first teaser trailer for Chloe Zhao's Eternals. So we've talked about this a bit before. The plot of this movie is the Eternals, a race of immortal beings with superhuman powers who have secretly lived on Earth for thousands of years, reunite to battle the evil deviants. So this stars a huge ensemble cast. Gemma Chan, Richard Madden, Kumail Nanjiani, Leah McHugh, Brian Tyree Henry, Lauren Ridloff, Barry Keoghan, Don Lee, Gil Birmingham, Harish Patel, Kit Harington, Salma Hayek, and Angelina Jolie. So a stacked cast. And I gotta say, guys, this movie looks, first of all, like a Chloe Zhao movie in terms of the gorgeous landscapes and obvious, actually being in location shots. But conceptually, I'm really interested in this too. I've seen a lot of talk on the internet of why have these characters not awakened while all the events of Endgame and Infinity War and Endgame were happening. Fair point. I have read Neil Gaiman's The Eternals, his 6 or 7 issue run that he did, so I have a little bit of context into how these characters might be explained as to what they were doing during this, but I don't really want to say too much about it because I don't think it's very clear within the context of this trailer. I jokingly texted the group that this might be Marvel's Cloud Atlas, but there's a lot of room for huge epic timelines here, and from this trailer, I can't say I'm not more excited, even more excited than I was previously about this.
It's also just like, in my opinion, that question of what was this character doing? It's the logically it makes sense, but it's like the movie wasn't made yet, and I'm pretty sure they'll address it because Marvel's been pretty good about addressing every single thing inadvertently or in the flick itself. So I think it's a pretty mute point to think that like there's no way Marvel's gonna be able to explain this comic book thing. It's like,
I mean, even in the trailer, they said that they haven't wanted to interfere for thousands of years. So it's something as simple as that just writes the whole thing away.
Yeah, literally one line of dialogue, and any of these complaints would just vanish. Not so that argument.
Christian, I know
the opposite
you're not
of Eternal.
A fan. Did you watch this?
Yeah.
No.
Before I give my opinions on the trailer, I would like you to talk about it.
Yeah, here's my opinions on the trailer. Brian said that it looks like Cloud Atlas, which is cool because I like that movie. Of course, I didn't watch the trailer. I did see Nomadland, which is a film by Chloe Zhao. So I'm very excited that someone who made an interesting piece like that is in charge of a very crazy kind of cosmic story in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I have nothing in that movie. is beautiful. She knows how to work with a good DP and knows how to tell story visually. So I have all the information needed. Oh yeah, and it's Chris, it's a Marvel movie that's gonna be coming out like this fall. Yeah. Yep.
Certain bar.
It'll probably be good.
Chris, did
Don't
you
drop
need
on you.
anything to sell you on, like, if you never saw a trailer?
No. I was going to see Eternals no matter what, but I do have to say, I agree with Brian. This looks like it will be the most beautiful film Marvel has made to date, solely because of Chloe Zhao's vision, her sensibilities. Kevin Feige has even jokingly said, and I want to emphasize jokingly, that he thinks this film could be an Oscar contender next year. I don't know how much I believe that. We haven't seen the movie yet, but I know there's been a lot of talk behind the scenes of this being the best thing that Marvel Studios has ever made. And yeah, there's like a marketing propaganda machine that they have to work when they're trying to release a movie, and that might be a lot of hyperbole, but it might be. Maybe it will be. Who knows? I think it certainly will be one of the most different things that Marvel Studios has made in the last 13 years. So I'm very, very excited to see that. After Endgame, we've gotten a lot of punching, we've gotten a lot of space battles and action and stuff. I'm sure we're still going to get that in this film, but I'm totally down for a quieter, maybe more character focused MCU film. So I'm ready.
In my opinion, they've already done the impossible. I never thought that I'd want to fuck Kumail Nanjiani, and I gotta say that I definitely do. And I haven't.
I'm really
seen him
excited to see his character because apparently he plays a Bollywood star
That's incredible.
in this film.
So excited.
Like his
Okay, that makes sense with what they showed in the trailer. It was this gorgeous, giant choreographed dance scene.
Yeah,
with
he's supposed to be a
incredible
Bollywood
costumes.
superstar.
I believe it.
That'll be
Wow.
hilarious.
So we'll definitely be talking about this a bunch more, I'm sure, as new trailers come out and Christian doesn't watch them, and we tell them what they're about to continue hyping it up.
I'm just gonna put Kumail
that's
Nanjiani as my
Eternals.
shirtless as my wallpaper on my phone, and it's all this man needs to get excited. Let me tell you,
It's amazing that he's been able to maintain that physique, even
Yeah.
like through the pandemic.
dude. Interviews with him
there's
are
no
so
word of an
funny.
Eternals
Honestly
2.
impressive.
His interviews are so funny because he's just like, I hate it. Like, this is awful. Like, I can't eat anything. Like, it's my nightmare. Like, that he got stuck in lockdown and
They have to do the press tour still.
had to maintain being ripped for like
Yeah.
2
Dude,
years.
see, Paul Rudd gets jacked. Like, Paul Rudd gets fit, and Paul Rudd's a comedian. I think Kumail Nanjiani just took it to like.
Oh, but he got
the next
way
level.
more ripped. I mean, I can't say for sure because I don't know if we got any completely shirtless Ant-Man. Maybe we did in the second one.
We
'cause
have,
he's at
yeah.
home. But he is not as ripped as Kumail.
Oh
Kumail's
no,
shredded.
that's exactly what I'm saying. Like we already
Yeah,
have
it's step
some
above.
comedians in the MCU, and Paul Rudd he looks good. He got fit. Like he looks like a superhero. He has a superhero physique. But Kumail was just like, I'm gonna take it to the next level.
Chris Pratt did not win the long game because Chris Pratt got really ripped for that one scene in the very first Guardians of the
first
Galaxy.
Guardians movie.
And by the time we get into like end of phase 4 in the MCU, there's jokes about him gaining weight because he clearly was not able to keep up his shape.
Yeah,
Very funny.
he still looks good though.
No, he looks great. Looks great. Not as good as Kumail.
So yeah, that's the newest first Eternals teaser that just dropped and is widely available. Racked up like 77 million views in the first day, something insane. Of
Pretty
course
crazy.
it would. Yeah, moving on to some stuff that's coming out this week. We've got a couple TV shows coming out this Friday. The first one is called Lisey's Story, and it's an 8-episode miniseries coming to Apple TV Plus. So this is based on a Stephen King novel of the same name from 2006. It's actually written by Stephen King himself as well, and directed by Pablo Larraín, and produced by J.J. Abrams. It stars Julianne Moore, and the premise is a widow becomes the object of a dangerous stalker obsessed with her husband's work. So it's very vague. I think the less you know about these sorts of things, the better. I watched about half the trailer, and Julianne Moore, Stephen King's story, pretty easy sell from my perspective. And I do have Apple TV, and we were all huge fans of Ted Lasso here. I haven't watched too much of their other original content, but this is something that I'll probably check out a few episodes at least. So the first 2 episodes, I believe, will be out this Friday on Apple TV Plus. The next show is called Sweet Tooth, and it's coming to Netflix this Friday. So this follows.
Hold on,
the summary of this.
I don't do any research on the show. Barely look at the show notes before we start. I got a lot of responsibilities as host. Is this the Twisted Metal adaptation?
No, this is the comic book adaptation, Sweet Tooth.
I'm not interested. Go ahead, Brian. Sorry to deflate it.
I'm sorry.
I got so
I'm sorry to burst your
when I saw
bubble.
this.
That is coming at some point eventually. I remember, that's still in production from what I understand. But yes, so Sweet Tooth is based off the comic by Jeff Lemire, and was created by Jim Mickle for Netflix. So the premise of this is, on a perilous adventure in a post-apocalyptic world, a boy who's half human and half deer searches for a new beginning with a gruff protector. So this is like a post-apocalyptic time where hybrids have started kind of popping up around the same time of this apocalyptic event, and no one knows what started it or the reasons behind it. And our main character is supposedly integrally involved in something with this story. I don't know too much about it. I hadn't really heard of the comic prior to this, but yeah, this is coming to Netflix this Friday, and it's animated. If I didn't say that. That's Sweet Tooth.
It's not animated. It's live action. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Yep.
There
Last
will be a
week,
lot of
someone
CG.
You're right. Yeah. I was going off the.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
So,
the CG,
Chris,
exactly. So that's
you're saying that this is a lot like Beast Wars?
Yes.
he's.
Go ahead with the.
Let's not.
Brian, what else we got?
All right.
What a cock tease.
Movie that I am very excited for. We have The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, coming to theaters and HBO Max day and date this Friday. So this is the third movie proper in the Conjuring series. So it's the sequel to The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2, although there have been a good handful of other movies in the Conjuring extended universe at this point. This is directed by Michael Chavez and written by David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick, from story by McGoldrick and James Wan, who has been involved in this series for a long time. So this is based on the trial of Arne Cheyenne Johnson, which is a murder trial that took place in 1981, where someone involved claimed possession. And it follows returning Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga as Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are investigating this to prove its veracity. I feel like this is the sort of series that you either love or you hate. Blumhouse has very much defined a modern style of horror with these sorts of movies that I very much enjoyed personally. But yeah, this is the third Conjuring movie that'll be out this Friday, and that we will strictly never cover a full month of on this podcast.
You know, I still to this day have not
We'll
seen a
see.
Conjuring movie. You know, I'm not the big horror guy. I don't mind it. I've heard good
Really?
things about it, but I have not seen even a frame of The Conjuring. So, like every 2 years, the list gets longer and spookier.
But I mean, only 2 before. I think the first 2 are definitely worth seeing, Christian. The first Conjuring movie was one of the most affected I'd been by a horror movie in a theater in my whole life.
Wow.
I don't know if
Wow.
it held up as well watching it at home, but it was pretty impactful when I saw it when it came out.
Very
So yeah, that's The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. That'll be out on HBO Max and in theaters this Friday. And that's it for the news this week.
Brian, thanks for that wacky news. What a great job. I love it when you deliver the news. For our YouTube watchers, that's all you get. That's the exclusive you get on the tube. You need to subscribe to the pod to hear more. But if you want to find us independently on the internet, where can people find you? Gentlemen, not you, watcher.
Viewers, you can find me at Chris Conkling on Twitter, talking about all things nerdy, comic books, television shows, movies, video games, collectibles. If it's nerdy, I'm talking about it.
And you can find me on Twitter at True Pop-O-Holic.
And you can find my band at Midnight Satire, making jammy jams on at Midnight Satire. Just search for it. It's cool. It is not spelled. Some people think it's Midnight Sad Tire, which would be more appropriate than what the name actually is, but it's satire, like the type of meta-contextual, self-revering style of art and humor. Yes, there you go. Thanks, Chris. So for our YouTube watchers, thanks for stopping by, and follow the links down below. Email us, popholicscast@gmail.com, and yeah, do the thing. Smash that subscribe button. Good YouTubing.